How Hassan built a successful law firm after being falsely accused. Obviously, this is not a video to shed light on any negativity, but this is something us men have to be aware of, no matter who you are. Because the moment you think you're immune to any accusations or things happening to you, that's when you're more susceptible to it happening. Anyways.
Falsely accused nowadays,
bro. I mean, I don't listen. I'm not data science. I don't have the exact data, but it is an insane amount. I can't tell you how many men. I mean, I have a client who caught his wife cheating on him in the kitchen with the handyman.
Oh, what?
And that broke
Haram.
There we go. But that broke his heart. And so what did she do now? She knows she's in the wrong. So what did she do? Called the police immediately and said, "Oh, he's gonna kill me," and got him arrested on false allegations, filed a restraining order against him as well. I represented him in the restraining order and destroyed it in court. But it just happens. It's a tool that is often used way too frequently. Brother, I myself faced false accusations. That was the greatest gift, because I know what it's like to be on that side, and it allowed me to be the best lawyer. And even though, look, my law firm's called Muslim Legal, I obviously look visibly Muslim, but I have clients of every different culture, race, religion, ethnicity. It doesn't matter, because ultimately they saw, man, these are lawyers that know what it's like to be targeted.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Because and it's interesting because the legal disciplines that...
It's crazy. You know what's funny? Even for me, I was accused before. Maybe not in the same category and the same topics, but I remember working at a supplement shop when I was younger, before my university days. And the staff member that was a female cried to the manager, saying I was doing a bunch of things, calling them a bunch of things. And the manager that knew me for 4 years prior to hiring this person believed this person. Long story short, I do not work there anymore, not because I was fired, but because I found something better later on. But that goes to show they'll do anything and fake cry and anything extra to make sure they have the upper hand. If you think it can't happen to you, think again. That's just work. I'm just blessed it wasn't anything else worse. None of us are susceptible. None of us. It can happen to any of us. And I just pray, even to my worst enemy, it doesn't happen to them, especially when they're innocent.
That you take over, you've experienced this. So for you, you're able to really put yourself in your client's shoes when they're going through that hardship. Because you've been there where, obviously at the border being detained and then having those issues, and then you could tell them your story.
Yeah, no, that's really what makes the best lawyer, is not just studying it in the books and not even just doing the cases for others, but being the client, knowing what it's like to be the client. And that's exactly why I ended up doing family law. So very simply what happened is I was running one of the largest civil rights organizations for 10 years. And, my ex-wife, she unfortunately caught the feminist bug at the time. And her friends would whisper to her and told her, and she would literally say at the time, we'd be millionaires if your dad did real work instead of this nonprofit charity work. Because all the civil rights work I did was basically for nonprofit civil rights, pro bono, living paycheck to paycheck, man, for 10 years. And it's because I loved it, man. I realized the importance of the U.S. Constitution, and I realized my children are growing up here.
Defending people for free and all that
Exactly,
stuff.
Exactly. And I absolutely loved it. It was never about the money for me, you know what I'm saying? And even within my own law firm, last year I did about $500,000 in pro bono work. And now I'm starting to cut it back because I realize, to fight the fights that we're fighting, we need resources. So now I'm starting to scale back a little bit on that side. But nonetheless, for 10 years doing pro bono work, living paycheck to paycheck, serving the community, challenging the FBI called me a thorn in their side. But the same agents who called me a thorn in their side actually gifted me their the challenge coin, and I had their respect. I was one of the first leaders of the civil rights organization I was in to be invited to the White House. We humiliated CBP. I mean, I can't tell you how many stories I have with CBP, Customs Border Protection. In fact, they used to target me. I remember coming back from a flight, and they pulled me in for a random inspection, secondary inspection, and we could talk about your rights at the border.
That's insane, man. This world just doesn't reward the right thing. It doesn't. It doesn't. It penalizes people for sharing the truth. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. I don't know how to really express it.
Border when the time is right. But then they took me out right away, like to leave. They rushed me out. I said, aren't you going to ask me any questions? They said, our records indicate that you don't answer, so we're not going to waste our time. But people don't know their rights, and thus they give in and they become complacent, they get hurt more and more. In another instance, I remember coming back from Turkey, and they, again, pulled me in for a secondary inspection. I went in the room, I saw the table where they search. I'm a little bit rebellious by nature as an attorney, so I sat on the table. They're like, no, you can't sit there. They're like, put your bag on the table, let us search it. I said, you do that, I'm tired. So they put the bag on the table, and then they're like, well, what were you doing in Turkey? I looked at him in the face. I said, what was I doing in Turkey? None of your business. That's what I was doing in Turkey. And he's like, oh. And I was like, listen, with all due respect, you're an African-American officer, and we see what it's like. A lot of African-Americans complain about driving while black. Here you are giving us the same treatment flying while Muslim. Look around the room. 80-90% of us just happen to share the same faith, and you're targeting us. We've done nothing wrong. And now, of course, he was very...
I wouldn't say similar fates, not the same. No, not comparable. I get your story, but not the same. Believe me. No, not even close. Similar, sure. Same.
Very apologetic, and I raised on that to the point where I would live stream from CBP areas, instructing people on their rights, and then just to be antagonistic, I would actually do the call to prayer, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, loud, just to show them that I'm not scared, because historically the community was so scared. And at that point, man, we actually earned their respect. We connected with the head of CBP, and they actually brought us.
To be honest, can you imagine a person of color, as a melanated, black like myself, behaving? Well, I'm not really saying anything against his behavior, but standing up like that, do you really think they'll still be alive? Honestly, there's a reason I say this. There's a reason. Story. I do personal training as an online coach. I've done personal and I do online since especially COVID. I have one client. This client is Canadian. He was in the process of doing an application to work within the government, right, of Canada. So he had to travel to the United States because the certain documentation was taking too long, so I had to go there just to get verifications. He was stopped by police officers and they were gonna shoot him because guess why? I'm not even gonna say it. You can put two or two together, but his first time driving across the border to get to the United States, he was almost shot. That doesn't happen here in Canada. So just one experience from someone like me, not from there, going there, almost getting a life-ending situation. Just once. And you want to tell me we go through the same fate? Get real.
Brought us in to start training their officers on how not to harass and target and undermine civil rights of people. So that's the kind of work I was doing for 10 years, fighting the feds, fighting the federal government, fighting government overreach, which I think is something that can unite the right and the left. Historically, it hasn't always, but I think now both sides are waking up and saying, wait a minute, the federal government can be weaponized for political agendas, and it doesn't necessarily benefit the people, and nothing is greater than the Constitution and our freedom and our liberty, and it's our job as Americans, and what makes us Americans is to hold our government accountable and keep them in check. So I was doing that work for 10 years, and then, unfortunately, like I said, my ex-wife at the time caught the feminism bug and told the kids, we'll be millionaires if you're dead, did real work, and send this nonprofit work, and she ultimately ended up, me and her getting separated. She moved to Morocco. Separated for close to 2 years, religiously divorced for about 6 months, been blessed to move on into a new, healthy, beautiful relationship, and my ex-wife hadn't seen the kids in like 6 months. I begged her to come back and visit. When I begged her to come back and visit, I said, listen, we got a beautiful home in Tampa, you can stay there. I got another apartment that me and my partner would stay in, and the kids were with me in Jacksonville, the home's in Tampa. She hasn't seen the kids in 6 months. When she came to spend time with the kids, she saw that I didn't spend time with her. And she saw how happy I was.
Because you were married at this time.
I was religiously remarried. I was religiously remarried.
She came back to see the kids, and you were with
I'm respectful. You know what I'm saying? I have my boundaries and my limits. And she's like, you basically traded me for garbage. I'm not going to repeat her language.
That's crazy.
I'm going to make sure you and her lose everything. I'm going to make sure you're on the streets. And...
How evil do you have to be?
And blasted me online. She did a GoFundMe that raised $40,000. Now, mind you, dude, I've done so much free work for actual victims of domestic violence. One of my first clients that I did about $20,000 worth of free legal work representing her, who's an actual victim of domestic violence. She has 100,000 followers. When she did her GoFundMe, she couldn't even raise $20,000 to support her legal case. Meanwhile, my ex, who only had a few thousand followers at the time, raised 40,000. Why? Because it wasn't about supporting.
You know, you see what I mean? You just negativity, degenerate things, and just a lack of human regard is rewarded. You can do the right things all you want, people. If you expect anything because you're doing the right things, I suggest you rethink. It really has to come from your heart, and it has to come from a place of actually wanting to see a difference. It cannot come from a place of you're seeking some sort of validation from it or some sort of reward from it, because it doesn't come like that. It doesn't. Unfortunately, I'm not encouraging people to do negative things, but just keep that in the back of your mind. It really has to come from within, and you cannot expect anything in return. You just can't. That's why so many people go down a dark path, because the world rewards it. But one thing I will say, karma finds a way to come back. It finds a way to come back. It may be 20 years later, 30, 40, 50. It may even be if a couple of years down the line. Don't mess with that. Even though doing the right thing seems, like it takes you nowhere. Just know that if you're that type that does the wrong things, eventually it will fall like a ton of bricks on you. It will.
It was about attacking an attorney like myself that runs a prominent civil rights organization that's been challenging the federal government and frankly challenged a lot of the liberal agenda and the liberal politics as well. Yeah. So ultimately, she raised all that money and she filed for a temporary restraining order against me. And
restraining orders are bad, guys, because you lose your right to carry a gun. And all that
they're terrible.
They're horrible for you.
But here's the beautiful part, and this almost never happens. The judge denied the restraining order ex-parte.
Wow.
In other words, when you file for a restraining order, you actually have a shot to make whatever allegations. And if the allegations that are alleged are enough, to make the judge indicate that you may be at risk, then the judge is going to grant it because they don't want to risk it.
Yeah.
But the judge, when he reviewed her allegations, and only she was there to argue them, I wasn't there to defend myself.
Yeah.
But God is most kind.
Yeah.
Praise be to Him.
She still lost.
She lost. It got denied ex parte, which almost never happens.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of these now because, again,
the likelihood of that happening is like, oh my goodness, is less than double digits in percentage. That's crazy. That's God Himself.
I know what it's like to have gone through them. And then secondly,
an ex parte is one party chat.
Yes.
But that means like only one party's there. He's not there to defend himself. Only she's there presenting her side, and that's it.
Right. And then ultimately what happened is she also contacted Child Protective Services against me. And they sat with me for 4 hours. And then in the end, bro, I swear to God, it was a Christian man who was questioning me. He said, it's clear she's just jealous and trying to harm you. But you're going to be like Job in the Bible. You're going to lose everything. And you're going to get all back 10x. And that's exactly what happened. When she made those allegations...
Whoa, that is deep. Whoa. That's deep.
A reporter who was trying to write an anti-CARE. CARE was a civil rights organization. I ran a hit piece against them for years. So she published everything, all the allegations as if it was true. They painted me in the worst of ways. Everything they alleged was false, and they had evidence that it was false, but they didn't care. They published it.
That's crazy.
And
this has got to be horrible for your career because, like, now the bars maybe.
That is what sucks. When allegations happen, even if it's false, there will be certain characters that will still use it and tarnish your reputation, tarnish your name, tarnish your potential for any opportunities. It's the worst thing you can do to a person. Accuse them of something they didn't do. It's just the worst thing you can do. If you're that type of person, I pray for your soul. I really do. You just don't do that to a person.
Maybe calling you.
Bro, it was nuclear option. I'm telling you, I didn't want to live. You know when the guy said you'll lose everything?
Yeah.
And you're going to get it all tenfold? That's exactly what happened. I remember moving to New York City. I resigned from my job. Now, no one made me resign, but the reason I realized, I'm running a civil rights organization fighting the feds. How am I going to do that and do justice to that while also dealing with this fire I have in my home?
How old were you at the time? How old are you?
How old? I was about 34.
Yeah.
I was about 34. Yeah, it was about 5 years ago. So at that time, I resigned from my job. I had lost my house because she took it over. I lost my kids. Hadn't spoken to them for months. She kept them when she was supposed to
she got custody of them immediately. So you bring her over to see the kids.
Literally, bring her over.
She sees you with a new woman, and she just goes crazy.
And she already knew.
It just makes me not want to deal with women at all. I don't know. I'm not saying they're all like this, but just for let's just even say 50% like this. Right, that's just a hypothetical number. Just don't want to deal with them. I want peace at the end of the day. The only woman I want to deal with is my mother. Constant communication with my mother. That's it. I'm at peace with that. I'm at peace with that. You know, even minding my own business, working, doing my job, had a mini accusation at work, and the manager that knew me for half a decade flinched to it. So that just tells me, man, I just want to avoid. I know you cannot really avoid anything, but what do you do? What do you do?
I knew I was there, and I was giving her an average of $5,000 a month.
Wow.
For the 3 months before she did this. And she claimed, she basically represented that she and the kids were locked up in the house getting beaten, using all the anti-Arab stereotypes, needing money to escape for their life.
Wow.
That was what they represented. Wow. So you got to imagine, I'm prominent, running one of the biggest civil rights offices. Yeah. I had to resign because I couldn't do it justice. I lost my house, lost my kids, my car was repossessed. I literally had lost everything. I remember moving to New York City and seeing the train, the subway, and just wishing I could fall in front of it. I didn't want to live anymore. What?
Damn, man. That's tough. That's really tough. I sympathize for people that go through that. Really. Really. You know, one of my past personal training clients was dealing with something not the same, but similar. Picked the wrong woman, had a kid with her. She was saying stuff about him similar to this, being locked up in the house, beaten up. It's just sad, man. It's I don't say these things by accident. I really don't. And I think I found this video for a reason. I believe I found this video for a reason. Anyway, man, be careful. Be careful, all of you. Be careful.
What kept me going was trusting God and my charity work. And I just believing that God never takes, he only gives. And there's a blessing in this for me. I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. The light at the end of the tunnel for me was a train coming to hit me. I literally wanted to jump in front of it. But, you know, we believe that, again, God never takes, he only gives. If you're oppressed, you will get victory as long as you don't give in to defeat in here and in here. No one can defeat you. You can only defeat yourself with your own mentality. And so it was learning these lessons the hard way. But ultimately, just like what the Child Protective Services guy promised happened. Bro,
wow.
I got my house back. Got my kids back. My ex issued a public apology. We're on good terms now. In fact, I represent her new husband against his ex-wife who stole his kids.
What? Man, you got a good heart to forgive like that. You got a good heart for sure. You got a good heart. How many people could do that? How many? You got a good heart, buddy. You really do.
What is the irony in that? You know
what?
Yes, sir. Yeah. And you know what? I started making more in a month than I used to in a year doing the civil rights work that I used to.
How did you turn it around?
Bro, it was literally...
How'd you go from wanting to end it all and going through this and being broke and she's trying to take you for everything you got? How'd you turn that around?
You know, there was a couple things. Number one is, again, just having blind faith in God, literally. And I think this applies to everyone. I don't care where your faith is. If you believe in a higher source, the higher source is beautiful. The Creator is beautiful. Trust him. He only wants good for you. That's number one. Number two is I actually started volunteering in Africa doing charity work. Not to be cliche, but I literally packed a few of my clothes in a backpack and live out of my backpack for a month, and I traveled. We spent time with orphans. We spent time in remote villages. People are literally living in mud huts that are like as big as this table, brother, you know, like this, and just serving the orphans, serving those in need. And I realized, man, you don't need all this stuff to be happy. Just being out literally in the remote jungle parts of Africa, and sometimes in the desert, Turkana, remote areas of Kenya, and just being able to serve those that are less fortunate and seeing how happy they are having nothing. And, you know, we have a tradition that God helps the servant so long as the servant helps others. So in through that service, you know, I believe there was indirect blessings to it. When I came back, you know, one of the biggest real estate developers hired me as his right hand. I had to take permission before I go on my charity trips. Okay. And I'm like, I can't freaking take permission. So I said, brother, I love you. Thank you for this position. It was paying me better than what was in my last job. But I can't ask for permission. So I'm just going to go back to Florida. I had nothing. At that time, I didn't have my kids back. Didn't have a plan.
Were you in New York City?
Yeah, I was in New York City. When I went through it, I moved to New York because my guy flew me out there, got me an apartment.
Gotcha.
You know,
you started working as his right hand, and then while you're doing that, you also did charity work.
Exactly, the charity work. And then when I got back, I don't have a job, but people started hitting me up saying, brother, I'm going through something like what you're going through. Could be, it could be a lady. Hey, my ex-husband made all these accusations against me, just like, you went through. Can you help me?
Damn.
And then, another gentleman calling me, same story. I'm facing all these false allegations. Can you help me? And I said, you know what? I want to be the kind of lawyer I wish me and my ex had. A lawyer that really cares about the family, about the children. Because in these family law disputes, the only people who win are the lawyers. They're the ones that make all the money off of the parties fighting, you know.
Yeah.
So ultimately,
It's a big business family court.
it's a huge, and honestly, there's a lot of, I think, abuse in the system. Unfortunately, there can be a lot of injustice. And so, man, I just started picking myself back up, taking on cases, one case after the next, and just doing it out of my house, without an office, without staff. And we've grown now. We have a team of 12. We have some of the best staff members that work day and night. Literally, I got an army, people that will go to war for me. And we built a powerful firm. We handle still discrimination, government harassment, FBI abuse. We do a lot of family law. We do criminal defense. We're there as a one-stop shop to fight for justice. As lawyers that were driven for over 10 years by a desire to protect the Constitution in the nonprofit space. And it actually took me a while to shift, because one of the big mistakes I used to make is when I have clients that run out of money, I used to not drop them. I just didn't have the heart to, you know. Yeah. But it continued to grow big. And it's easy to do that when you're just yourself. But when you have 10 staff, you know, you got to get...
You have to take care of them too.
Exactly. You got to take care of them. And it's not fair. And then I started to realize every time I said yes to pro bono work, I was saying no to my family, my children, and my staff. So we still do some pro bono work, but it's within the limits. Yeah. But ultimately, yeah, so that's what got me into family law. And I will tell you, very important for those going through divorce, going through hardship, going through a calamity, don't give up hope. Because I was at that point. I literally remember standing in the subway, seeing the train, wishing I could fall in front of it. And I kept my faith, I kept my optimism, and then everything turned around 10x. Literally, what I used to make in a year, I started making in a month. My following on social media went up 10x. My network went up 10x. I've never been more successful than I am today, and I don't believe I would have been here had I not lost everything, accepted it, and then worked hard to help those and help others avoid being in situations like I was.
This is wow. This could just make you shed a tear. Seriously. I definitely needed to hear that. Wow. I've now been speechless about any video I reacted to as much of this one this year. No. Not even close. Wow. I don't know what else I can say, folks. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. If you're dealing with this, I hope this was something you needed to see and needed to hear as well. It may not even be in the same category, but a few of the words he said, it can apply to anything. Anyways, I digress. Thank you so much for reacting with me. Stay tuned for more reaction videos. May God bless you, and I'll see you next reaction. Metro Boomin want some more, nigga.